All right, we're back. As you guys have seen my lovely face for the past 5 days.
The mic's muted. No, I'm just joking. That's right.
So, do you want to come back to base and check out my needlessly large rod?
Stop doing that, man.
I want to be Alistair because I want to knock you up.
Okay, so... I don't know what's more embarrassing, the fact that you're making these weird jokes or the fact that you're laughing like that.
The fact that they're funny?
They're very hilarious.
Eat my ash.
Can you just do whatever's going next, man?
Okay, so hello guys, Inside for Nerds here. I am the Nightwing, and that is JTH after he was battling illness last week. He's all better, back up for videos. And we are talking about North America today. He was at my house watching last game, and he just could not stop getting impressed by what the frick we just saw. Because, fun fact, this is the longest TSM and CLG, or the longest standing rivalry in League as it stands, and it is the active longest losing streak in any major region, spanning 3 years. And this is not count. This is counting best of threes when North America played those in between 2016 and 2017 as well. So, do you know how long CLG's beaten TSM? That's been since 2016. Long time. But we're gonna quickly recap today, and then we're gonna quickly go over tomorrow. So, first game was OpTic versus 100 Thieves. I'm not gonna lie, I watched this game, went outside, went to Del Taco, came back, and I was like, "This game's over." Okay, because I just didn't care. I'm not gonna. I can't say anything. I left. I just like, this game's terrible.
It was bad. There was a few things I liked on both sides. I really did like the proactivity of Onda. I think that this is one of the more proactive games he's had this season. When he started kind of focusing towards the top side of the map early on, I did think that was gonna make an impact. I really did think they're gonna win this game. For some reason, Ezreal was losing the lane early on to Sivir, which, in my opinion, should never happen. Ezreal's just completely better at that aspect. But I think that Aframu, who he is just not good enough to compete on a team that is trying to compete for like the top teams. Like, who he is keeping this team back, and so is Aframu, honestly. I think that...
To what extent?
I think both of them are playing... I mean, what do you mean?
Because Afro is, I think, playing better.
I mean, obviously,
what he's
better.
offering just isn't enough like it used to be.
I just don't think he...
But that could be because of, having a new ADC.
No, it's you can't give excuses at this point. We're halfway through the split. And
today ends the first round robin, actually.
We're halfway through the split, and I think he's been one of the most disappointing supports in the league because we did have high expectations coming in.
I had him at first. You had JJ at first. You had him at third, I think.
Yeah, but like, let's be realistic. Like, Aframu has not been like this playmaking support. All of these things that we've expected of him. He's been one of the worst supports in the league. I think he's been one of the biggest detriments to this team's success. I think Bang's been playing pretty okay, but Aframu is just not lane dominant. He's not roaming enough. Like, there's not
everything
much...
he did last spring split just isn't existent anymore.
I mean, yeah, there's just not... He's not putting enough on the table anymore. Like, I really did believe in Aframu coming into the split, but it's just not been the case. OpTic Gaming, I think that Arrow and Big are not great. I think that Big's quite a bit better than Arrow for some reason, but like, even then, Arrow played fine today. I think this is one of his better games.
He's still very underwhelming.
I don't think he's great, yeah. I thought he was playing terrible at the beginning. He failed to flash over the wall. And then he 100% carried this game afterwards, so I was kind of happy about that. Crown has been playing really well this year. I think that Crown is... If OpTic Gaming makes it into playoffs, I do think he should at least be in contention for the MVP voting because he's probably the most impressive part of this team. Again, the jungle is still always going to be a strength of this team. I think that either one of the junglers on this team is going to make this team able to compete with most of the bottom teams.
You have Onda. I don't even know where you put him at this point.
I don't know, because Onda's played really well recently. I do want to give him credit for what he's done. I mean, today specifically.
But it's still just nowhere near top tier.
Well, no, of course. But again, I think if Aframu and who he were playing to his level, I think this team would be in contention. Not in contention for first, but like, they would definitely be competing with FlyQuest right now if these two were playing better.
Yeah, I just couldn't watch this. I was like watching. I was like, okay, wake up, go to the bank, done. Then I came back. Their media's on their side. I was like, okay, OpTic won. I was like, well, that's to prove how bad this game was because OpTic looked absolutely. OpTic looked woo.
Yeah, Dokla again.
Gosh,
I really do think at this point they should try out Alorum again because, like, since the first game Dokla came back, he's looked horrible. Every single game that Doka plays now is just underwhelming. I think he's one of the worst top laners in the league right now. I think he's worse than Solo. So, there's a lot to take from this game. I do think it shows a lot of weaknesses from both sides. OpTic's just pure laning weaknesses, and 100 Thieves just seem kind of disorganized for the most part. I think that a lot of it comes down to them getting caught a lot.
Well, Probably talks about it in the Heist videos. He's like, this is going to be a good team. You just have to give it time.
Just probably talk about how much of he's an idiot he is, too. Because he should probably talk about that in the videos, too.
Yeah,
Probably is one of the biggest busts in this entire league. He's been one of the worst coaches, like, since he's came on to 100 Thieves. I don't see a reason as to why he still has a coaching job after last season.
I'm not gonna lie, you just use that as and throw some shade at him.
I did, because you mentioned Prawley, and I think he needs to be kind of criticized.
He said he wanted to take a different way of coaching.
He coached last year with what I would say is most people say not a brain. I think that's kind of a statement. But this season, he's taken an even bigger. Like the beginning of the season, we saw him. He's trying different things. I respect that to an extent, but it didn't work out, and he tried it for a few more matches than should have happened with the victor being flipped around the map. Each one of his players kind of struggled with it. Then we saw him taking a step of when he started putting Bang on the Ezreal, which I think was the better case. They started doing better. Like I know being versatile and being able to switch up your strategy is it's good. But when it's not your main, when your players aren't capable of it, which I don't think 100 Thieves is, you need to stop it.
I think that when you want to change up your playstyle, your team can already play one to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw what IG does now. IG's playing a different style because they can already play one way. They want to try different things because once you've already mastered one style, you can play a different style to try and make sure you're more flexible. But 100 Thieves moves to 3-6, and OpTic are now tied with them at 3-6. Next game of the day, we had Team Liquid versus Echo Fox. This is kind of like a ghetto version of G2 versus Fnatic, just a little bit worse. It was a first place team versus like a 9th place team. This was pretty one sided for a bit, and it pretty much was. TL just completely show why they're still first place. It's just like how I talked about with G2 as well. The same thing. They lost once, and they went like, okay, we need to take it more seriously. So the fact that they didn't take it seriously and got 8 wins, 9 wins, now they're taking it seriously. They're not losing predominantly probably anymore. So I think TL will lose one more time, but probably is only going to be to either C9 or TSM.
I think those are the two teams capable of doing it at this
point.
But
if they don't, then TL are going to go 17-1 because now they're taking it way more seriously, and their early game today improved drastically a lot better.
I think it's easy to have an early game when you're against a team like Echo Fox who has weak laners.
Because they play tomorrow. Little spoiler, they play 100 Thieves. Yeah, they don't.
Is it really a spoiler?
They don't need They don't need an early game for that. You can just play the same way they've been playing. But Echo Fox played drastically horrible. Rush is the single biggest disappointment this split, probably beside Afromu.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's a lot of things we can point about Team Liquid, but like, there's not again, a lot of people. If you watch their games, you already see their strengths. You'd see their weaknesses. It's really obvious.
If Doublelift doesn't carry, then Jensen or Impact does, which is good for them because last year was only just Doublelift.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the kind of way that Impact has played the season. Like he's played a lot of these carry champions, which I did not think he was capable of playing. This is probably the best he's played since he's came into NA.
Showing up a lot of those weaknesses. He gets heavily criticized for not being able to play carry top laners like Licorice.
Yeah.
And,
again, I think that this is like the games that they've fallen behind have came off of his and Xmithy's back is the problem. They are still the clear defined weakness of this team, but I think he has shored up a lot of what I would say were his previous seasons kind of biggest weaknesses. Like in terms of what we saw him do on the Akali, what we saw like again Kali was broken, but he played it really well. He was one of the biggest reasons as to why they smashed the clutch game. So I think that I do think that Team Liquid is gradually going to get better towards the end of the split, and they're going to keep widening this gap, and it's going to come down to another team kind of overperforming at this point to be able to take them, because as it stands right now, no teams
can do it.
They cannot do it.
Even with Apollo and Hakuho being solid in the bot lane.
But I want to point out Echo Fox because I honestly think Team Liquid's obvious. If you even look at their record, you can see that they're the best team, strongest in most of the roles. Echo Fox has a lot of strengths. I think that Phoenix is really performing well this year. I'm happy about it. I think
Solo is performing a bit better.
I think that
he always does every time I say that. He just like straight up.
No, I have to agree a little bit. I do think he's not one of the worst. He's definitely not in the bottom
he's
two.
Ninth compared to Doppler.
I think he's like 8th, honestly.
Like, because today he played good, but I think he got a little bit too over eager when he was playing Jace because. See, it's one thing to fall for what Team Liquid was trying to do for him. It's also another thing to fall for it 4 more times after that.
Like, again, I think that Big is still in the bottom 3, but I think he might be 8th. I think that he's like, I don't know if it's him getting better or the rest of the league just getting worse. I do think Dokla's playing a lot worse than last season. I think that if we're going to point out, like, the weakness of Echo Fox, it's going to be the top side. It's going to, like...
It still has to be the top
side. It does.
Side.
Like, Rush has been the biggest disappointment out of probably the entire league last year.
If Rush could play good and Solo can just play consistent like he's been, they would still they would look better in the standings than it shows right now. I think.
I still think, regardless, you need to. If you're the first person you would want to replace is gonna be Solo. I think that Rush.
I don't get why they don't play Lorlo. Lorlo's playing great in their academy games.
Yeah, he is, and honestly, he was better last season too, which makes no sense to me. Lorlo was the better performing player last split. He was the better performing player as it stands right now. It just the reason to keep Solo on the main roster is just lost on me. I don't know why the case is that he's still playing, but
the bot lane played decent today, but they can play decent, but Core JJ Double If is too much better.
Yeah, there's not a bottom lane in the league that can compete with them right now. And then the mid lane, I think that Echo Fox is really like their strongest point is the mid and bot. I think that if you're gonna play through a lot, they're versatile in comparison to most of the bottom tier teams, which only have this one lane to play through. I think they have 2, where I think that Apollo Hako are gonna go even for the most part against everybody that's not Team Liquid, and they're actually gonna get a lead against some of these bottom tier teams too, because they have a pretty decent bot lane, and then Phoenix is really able to compete with anybody at this point, in my opinion. I think he is.
He's gotten way better.
Yeah,
I think he's drastically improved every single week. From the first 2 weeks, I was like, it's not looking too good for him anymore. But then he got gradually better, but still not enough for Team Liquid. So TL moved to 8-1. Echo Fox going to 4-5, and this was the second or first worst game because this game looked even worse.
First one was definitely 100 Thieves OpTic. That was not even. It wasn't just bad. It was boring to watch.
And then you have like this game, and it's like, hey, let's just. Clutch and Golden Guardians like, okay, we can try and one up them.
That was
just not do that.
My favorite game of the day.
Yeah, this is non-biased too. It's
not biased. I just really like Clutch Gaming. So.
And okay, so this is probably good lord, this draft was terrible. They picked Clutch. I remember picked Aurelia, Alistar.
If you're gonna point
Cassiopeia, Sejuani, and the mid laner was like a Sandra, I think.
Are you like? I'm gonna be honest. If you're gonna point out a bad,
I forgot. I can just look at the draft on my phone.
It's right here.
Oh, Vladimir. Yeah, I can keep it Vladimir.
I'm honestly, if you're gonna point out a bad comp, you have to first go to Golden Guardians, which was even worse.
Okay, so the composition is terrible on both parts, but I like how they're developing a style to play to themselves because theoretically the whole thing with styles.
I honestly think this is a pretty good comp, to be honest.
I like that they're trying a different style.
Hard engage with a lot of kite back. Or you can play that like it gives
reactionary.
Yeah, you can play it to where like they have to get through the front line to get to the people who are destroying them. Like I just think that there's a lot of things that could go well with this comp that Clutch Gaming actually picked out. But the biggest thing is I think that Clutch Gaming showed that was one of their best performances in a long time. I think that Lyra on a tank
1-5.
Lyra on a tank looks so much better than he's looked throughout the entire season.
He looked better on tank than he looked better on a carry jungler.
And the problem is, I don't think he looked bad on carry junglers in terms of mechanical. It wasn't the mechanics that were getting him wrong. It was the fact that he knew he had to play aggressive and he didn't know how to. Like he was mechanically fine, but he just consistently went over what I think he was able to do.
I think when you look at the composition from what they chose, Golden Guardians is a lot of hard engage. You have to make sure your Yasuo and your Orin make sure they coordinate their knockouts together. Ole today single-handedly proved he is the worst support in the league.
He is the worst. He's the worst player in the league, in my opinion.
I don't see that's the problem. See, people said they didn't have anybody to go off of with support. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There was just pick a challenger person. It would have been. I still wholeheartedly believe they would have been a whole lot better than picking him up.
I think at the beginning of the season, I would have taken Ole because I don't think he was terrible on Team Liquid.
You had Fong that left C9 Academy.
He's not good.
You had there was that one dude who left CLG Academy. His name is Tuesday. No, Tuesday's the ADC.
Tuesday is the ADC. Yeah.
You had. There was a bunch of supports from the academy scene. Like Stunt. We had Stunt.
I agree. Stunt.
Stunt should not be on an academy team. Stunt should be with them.
Stunt or Shady at this point.
Like it's like some people. Someone said they had to go with they didn't pick him Ole, who had lost it. Theoretically, they looked at, okay, he won 2 championships, not realizing that he was the one getting carried to those championships.
No, the first championship, he was the best player on that team. Or not in the best player, but he was very much in the top.
They were looking at, oh, this guy won championships, so let's just grab him.
I think there's a lot of things that have went well with Ole, and I thought that he was going to be playing a little bit better this year because, again, double lift, there's 2 things about double lift that are just counterintuitive to Ole's playstyle, is the aggressiveness in the laning phase when I think he's a passive/roaming support. That's just not what he does in the laning phase. And double lift's aggressive tendencies in terms of just how he talks. I think that's going to be somebody who's not able to take criticism. I do think that's going to be one of Ole's personality traits, and he's just not.
But theoretically, like, he didn't play good. Even just outside of laning phase, he didn't play good. So
I mean, he didn't play terrible though. Is the thing. This level of play is not what he played like last year.
This is just not acceptable.
I think he was a middle tier support last year.
If he was just showing that, that'd be better.
But... Yeah, but the thing about it is, at the beginning of the year, I would have done it. Now I would say replace him with anybody.
You need to You need to just contact any other support. That guy is Ole is a reason why you probably won't make it in playoffs.
But wait, why did you screw up?
And then you have Clutch. I mean, theoretically, if you look at the way people play Styles, if a team cannot counteract it, then yeah, that's gonna work good. It's only gonna work good right now in best of ones because, well, you don't get other games to counteract it.
I mean, I'm gonna say that Clutch Gaming is not to the same level. Like when Invictus Gaming does it, they're just the best in the world. You can't counteract aggressive playstyles when you can't stop them. But Clutch Gaming is not that good. Clutch Gaming needs a second.
Hooney's as good as a Shy.
You know what? I don't want to talk about that. I really had a lot of hope for Hooney this year, but
I think that if you look at the way they drafted today, they should probably just only draft that way.
I think
if they draft standard, they're gonna get destroyed.
I have a lot of I'm actually kind of happy about this game because it shows versatility on the side of Clutch Gaming. The ability for
this is very small versatility.
No, it's not.
Because they cannot play standard, so this is like
they can play standard. The fact that Piglet can play these bruiser bot lanes in when I would say like Irelia was kind of nerfed. I think that was a pretty good play on their part. I think the fact that Lyra's going back to these tanks in the jungle is gonna first off help Hooney in the top lane because Hooney was dying a lot, like trying to help these counter jungles, and it's gonna help him because he's on it. Like he looked really fine on this game today.
I liked how he went back to his pocket picks.
And then Hooney, I think Hooney is gonna be the biggest question mark on this team. If he can start playing better, I still think this team can make top 4. But if he does not pick up from where like the level of play that he's playing at, I don't see this team making it to playoffs because
I didn't have him in playoffs, guys.
I don't care about.
I took the easy way out.
Yeah, because if Hooney does not pick up his level of play, they're not going to make it. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way they make it to playoffs.
Because theoretically tomorrow, all OpTic has to do against him is just ban Cassiopeia, and then what's he going to do then?
He can play a lot of character. Like, it's not just the Cassiopeia. He has a very big champion pool.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it's not just about... It's about his level of play. It's not the champion pool that's the problem. It's the boy he's been playing.
Then Golden Guardians were like, Victor has one of the worst win rates in any of the regions, so they're like, hey, let's just grab Victor, because that's going to win us the game. I saw Victor, and I was like, they immediately lost. Because reasons. That's pretty much it. The draft phase is just horrifying.
But the biggest problem with
they
this,
should be ashamed of themselves.
I think that there was 2 major flaws with Golden Guardians today.
Hanser's TP flanks.
Hanser was not one of the problems with this game.
His problem was flanking, but it wasn't the issue.
I don't think it was.
I think Hooney kind of knew. Hooney kind of just outplayed his flanks.
Yeah, it was. It was an outplay on Hooney's part. He smothered every single one of it. But the biggest problem was Ole's terrible play, and then Contracts was absolutely terrible today. Contracts was the.
He was on his best champion, Lee Sin,
and he was horrible. That was one of the worst. That was the single worst Lee Sin play I've seen the entire year so far. Like,
this is not counting other regions too, right?
It's counting every region. That was the single worst Lee Sin play I've seen pretty much all year. I think that this is a really big... Like, I had a lot of hope for Golden Guardians coming into this because they had been playing really well recently. They played really well into CLG. They played well into a lot of teams that I think had counteractive styles to their play. Okay, stop yawning, man.
But Piglet did show he can play Irelia.
Yeah, so I think that...
Today, Vulcan played pretty well. Like I said, for a bit, Vulcan has been that silent, kind of underrated support no one's really looking at. He's made some really cool mechanical plays. He's actually facilitating his team in the right way, kind of just the way you need him to play. He's not the playmaker, but he's just the guy you need.
I think he should be a playmaker. I still think that's his play style. The games they've won have been off of Leona, Alistar, and Tahm Kench. Those are his 3 wins so far. I don't think that he is really insanely good on a lot of other... Like, I do think he's good on a lot of other characters, but I think they need to stop trying to put him on these, like, other types. Like, this is his playstyle. Like, it's kind of counteractive to put somebody who I think is going to be your primary engager on something else. But,
and DeMonte is still playing very, very solid in the mid lane, despite all the flaws going on in his team.
I think that this bot lane and mid lane are really keeping this team alive.
If they just underperform, they're going to get some more losses.
So I think that Clutch Gaming is going to start coming up a little bit because Huni showed a lot of, like, it wasn't just the character, it was just, like, again, I mean, he was playing against Lancer, but still, I think he played really well today.
And then, all right, Golden Guardians moves to 3-6, and Clutch ties them because they haven't won since week 1. That's like, do not bet on week 1 performances translating in to 3-6, and then Cloud9 and FlyQuest move up to play the match of the day, and it kind of did live up to that. This was the match of the day. This was an intense game back and forth. Not necessarily the cleanest of team play because I don't know what Wild Turtle was thinking, or if he just like turned off his monitor because he just started running it down.
He played Yasuo. That's the basic mechanic. I think that's his passive actually.
Basically, he was like the enemy team's Yasuo, and he just was like your team's Yasuo, which is bad. So Cloud9, like looking at their game today. You look at just who is the actual MVPs of the team. You look at Zazel's performances, and you look at Licorish's performance. Svenskeren, he just isn't non-existent. But
I'm gonna be honest. A lot of C9's wins have come off the back of Ezreal on Sneaky. So I think that every single time they get that character, I think that it's almost a surefire win for Cloud9 against most of the teams. But
today they showed that they can play something different. They are willing to try something different out, and they can still play the same level of aggression and macro that they played in the other games. Yeah. The issue is that a constant consistent seems to be that they're ganking bot the first. So I would like to see tomorrow that they're seeing that they're losing first blood to bot. They've lost first blood to bot in the last 3 games. They need to stop. It's not that they need to stop. It's just more like eventually you'd have to kind of catch on and be like, okay, they're going to gank this lane first because we're always going to play aggressive because drafting the Shen and the Ezreal, drafting the Cassiopeia and the Galio, you're going to be playing aggressive. So you're going to have to kind of understand you're going to get most of the jungle attention, which was happening today. FlyQuest showed why they're the 3rd place team today, and the next team too, because FlyQuest, even though they're winning, they didn't really know sufficiently what to do after that. We've seen that be a constant problem with FlyQuest, where they just can't do it. Like, they just can't play a lead correctly, and then Cloud9 showing, and it's proven today that this is how you play a lead, and this is how you take objectives, even when you're behind. Also, running under tower as Yasuo is not good. Just a disclaimer for your solo queues. Do you think Yasuo should just run it down mid?
I don't know what you want. My Yasuo's do it, so I assume it's the strat.
just go down, run down mid, and get it. I thought Santorn is probably still the single best jungler in the league, but yeah, the Kindred pick. Wasn't really too happy about it or excited about it.
Didn't Cloud9 have the Kindred?
Yeah, Svenskeren played it.
I thought it was fine. I thought the Kindred...
I don't think it really... It's an early game pick. It does early game aggression.
It does actually scale really well, too.
It does, but... it just wasn't... I mean, it was okay. But
it's not even early game anymore, honestly. The way they've played... Like, again, Kindred can duel early, but, like, she doesn't have insanely good ganks.
So but you're really looking at... Zazel and Licorice playing just honestly really great. Licorice and Zazel have been playing great. Sneaky's been gradually just...
I think Sneaky's been the best player on this team in contention with Licorice this year.
And then you have Niski, who was just an absolute... would you say a solid rock mid laner?
No, he's been... I mean, he's definitely lost a few of these lanes. I would say he's probably the most...
He's got the sneaky syndrome.
He's the least
does consistent. Bad in lane and then just does well in the team fights.
I don't know. I mean, no. He's been the least consistent on this team because... Svenskaren's been consistently bad.
Oh God.
And then Zazel and Sneaky been.
But his thing was laning phase. I already knew going in he wasn't going to be good at laning phase. I've watched enough of his laning phase to know he's not going to be good at laning phase.
It depends on what character he gets again. I think he's definitely good on some lane bullies. I think he's good on the Cassiopeia and a few other characters like that.
Aatrox, where he was getting solo kills in the mid lane.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's really dependent on the laning phase. He's not good at passive laners because he's not good at passive laning.
Yeah. But then FlyQuest also today showed why they're kind of going to be not second place. But looking at FlyQuest, it's like, how would you pair them against the next team we're going to talk about? So C9 moved with the win to 7-2, gapping.
I do kind of want to talk about FlyQuest before we say anything. Well, don't touch me, man. Come on. I think that FlyQuest they have what I would say is an MVP caliber player in Pobelter right now. I think he is. If FlyQuest does good this year, I do think that he is very much in contention for that. Him and Santorin.
Oh, Pobelter played absolutely incredible.
Pobelter's been one of the best mid laners in the league this season. I think that Santorin's one of the best junglers. So these two players are what's keeping this team alive. I think that Viper's pretty okay, but he's really like
he's not underwhelming. It's just a bit better direction. He would be a lot better of a player.
I think that honestly, the only games that I say he's been in my opinion really good have been on the Riven. I think these other characters are pretty okay. Irelia flanks are pretty decent, but he's been a lot. Like, he's not this superstar player that a lot of people are making him out to be. I think he's an up-and-coming talent.
I think that with a little bit better of direction on the map, he will be a lot better. Because we saw that with a lot of some of the more newer top laners, or even some of the import ones that came in. They didn't really have any direction when they first started. But then with a little bit of direction and a little bit of more knowledge toward how to play competitively, I think he'll improve because he's shown some really great performances.
I do agree. I think in the future
today he played fine today.
I don't think again like look about the Licorice and all these
Broken
other.
Blade.
I mean, if we count Broken Blade, but again, if we count them, they came into the league pretty strong. I mean, I think he's been pretty decent, but
he'll be not as good as them, but he'll be just under them. I think eventually.
Yeah. And then if we I think
the bot lane
the bot lane is the big problem with this because I think that JJ has been pretty terrible this year. I thought he's
better than JJ.
Yeah, I'd say so honestly, but I think that JJ was really good last year. I thought he was a really in terms of rookie supports. I thought he was up there with Zazel.
JJ played Alistar, right? Yeah, he played Alistar.
But if we're gonna compare JJ to a lot of the supports that I say he's equalized with yesterday, he's really fallen below a lot of them, besides maybe Ole, who's a lot worse than him now.
Also, NA proving today that NA Silas is better than EU Silas. Did you go to sleep today?
I like yawning. Makes me feel good.
I like your face.
Shut up. So, if I'm gonna say something, if FlyQuest wants to compete in terms of just like to compete with Cloud9, They're gonna have to
clean up their macro.
They're gonna have to clean up their bot lane. Like their bot lane
plays macro because the bot lane has shown that they can pair up with Santorin and get leads. But if you don't exactly translate them to anything, you're not really gonna get anywhere.
I'm saying, well, again, I think that Wild Turtle has been one of the biggest detriments to this team because he's just not good enough to, like when he got the lead. If we saw the lead against who did they play? Clutch Gaming. He would start doing these weird ults back into it. He ulted back into Clutch Gaming and had to flash out. Like
he just is too trigger happy.
Wild Turtle's just a little too much. I think that JJ is again a weak both laner and just player in general. So I think that FlyQuest. It's not even that they have to clean up the bot lane. They just they're just not going to be a contender based solely off the bot lane. I think they're going to be a solid upper middle of the pack team to middle of the pack team.
I think for this split alone, they'll probably keep third and fourth.
I think they're going to be fifth place. I think they're going to end the split on fifth place. And I think that if they want to compete at the top level, if they had a better bot lane, I think they'd be second place.
And then Cloud9 moved to 7-2. FlyQuest are now tied with their next game, spanning the 3-year-long losing streak for CLG. And guess who lost? Well, CLG did. That means this is the longest losing streak in any of the leagues. They have lost since 2016. And now TSM today looked like the TSM people expected to be coming in and being the fourth place TSM. Yeah, now we have they're fourth. Well, then now we're tied for third.
I'm not gonna get too hyped on this TSM game specifically today because the fact that you're not gonna see a Thresh getting that many hooks consistently. That is an outlier of a game. This is not going to happen on a consistent basis. So
but Smoothie we know
Smoothie is a good
can
player.
Play like that.
I don't think it's consistent. No one gets that many hooks in a professional scene consistently.
Because 6A just doesn't know how to play far back.
Well, it's not. You can play far forward on Ezreal. It's possible. You cannot play far forward if you're going to get hooked on Ezreal after E. Like that's not a thing.
I think that the bot lane showed that they have some promise still. Because remember, people have to understand Sven hadn't played with another support in years. So
that was literally 100%. This game was all on Smoothie.
And then you had Broken Blade, who just has been performing absolutely amazing.
I think he's
tied with first best top lane in the league.
Yeah, I think that it's been him pretty much. I think that in terms of the jungle too, I think that Acadian's been a really strong player this season.
Acadian maybe being exactly what TSM needed in some ways.
In terms of just the weaknesses of TSM, it's been the bot lane for quite a bit of time, but I think that this week, or just this
past few weeks,
this little streak they have going in general, I think that bot lane's turned it around pretty decently.
And then you have CLG, and guess who they picked to lose? They chose Victor, and they put him in the mid lane.
I don't think Victor was at all a problem. I think that that was a coincidence. I think Victor played fine today.
I think every time I see Victor, I'm probably going to be like, that team's going to lose.
Well, I'm not going to do that because, again, this game specifically, I think the Victor was fine.
Do you think Darshan should have not played anything but a tank?
I think that, again, Stixxay shouldn't have got hooked 7 times in the laning phase in 5 minutes.
Bjergsen today pulling out his one of his favorite picks to talk about is in the Talia.
And we didn't even get to see it in action because the fact that
CLG lost so quickly.
I'm sorry, like the biggest problem, TSM, again, you get hyped because you saw Smoothie play well, but again, it doesn't really show if they've cleaned up their weaknesses or not.
Yeah. Because
they didn't really get to, like, if you take over the game that easily, you can really just run over them.
It's kind of like IG. It's like when they take over the game so easily like that, where's the weakness that you can point out?
So I would say I honestly would put TSM as probably the 3rd best team in the league right now. I think they're above FlyQuest.
Just not that one game?
No.
Because they've looked worse than FlyQuest in their losses, too.
I don't care about that. I mean, just recently they've played a lot better. On top of and I do think their strengths are... The strengths of FlyQuest are mitigated against TSM in the mid lane and the jungle. Maybe not the jungle, but the rest of their weakness is like Viper in the top lane is going to get demolished by Broken Blade. And the bot lane's going to lose too, which is their biggest
today's
weakness.
Competent bot lane, CLG's competent bot lane in 6A and Afro they got demolished. Woo! Man, that was crazy.
Again, that's not going to happen consistently. I think this is an extremely bad game on Stixxay's part. So, but
Biofrost, he didn't play better.
Darshan played way better. What?
Darshan didn't play better enough to a point where it was like anything. I mean, Jarvan behind just sucks.
Jarvan wasn't really behind. He got put behind by this stupid lack of pressure they got out of bot lane, so they could just focus on the rest of the map.
Sven got kills under turret as Kai'Sa. When do you ever see that? Like,
I see it a lot of my solo queue games. They just ult back there, kill you, and then walk away.
They just make sure you're dead. No. And then all right. So with that, TSM moved to 5-4, and the CLG moved to 4-5, and that concludes day 1. Unless you want to have any closing thoughts on day 1 over that.
Don't touch me,
and
man.
And now we're day 2 predictions. All right. So first game, we're gonna kind of show this one up kind of quick because I want to do an EU video.
I don't.
LEC, right? No. You have Golden Guardians versus Echo Fox.
Okay, so I mean, I guess you're being quiet for me to talk real quick.
Maybe I don't know, because this is looking like 2 of the worst teams in the league, and they don't. Echo Fox Rush can't lose this game because he'll go 0-2. He's always went 1-1. So,
are we predicting now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that Golden Guardians. I think that was a really bad game on their part. I don't think they've been playing that bad recently. Like their past 3 games, I think they played really well. I think that when they figured out a defined style that they wanted to play, it's been pretty decent. And Echo Fox, I think they do have a lot of strengths. I do think they're not... But the problem is they're not going to take advantage of the spot lane unless they just keep killing Olay, which is possible. But...
Didn't they... Oh, when we went, they beat them. This is... Oh, yeah, I forgot. When they went, they beat them, actually. Echo Fox did. I think Echo Fox can beat them again. I think that today, it was just a clear-cut mismatch. Because first place versus like 8th place is going to be a clear-cut mismatch in any you go to basketball and freaking
I'm sorry, like
the Warriors facing the Bucks. Like
the Bucks are in first place in the East.
I mean the Hornets.
The Bucks have the best record.
The Warriors versus like the Hornets, so it's gonna be like it's very very mismatched, But I think today is gonna be a little bit more of a team that they can play not so. Where they don't basically have to worry about Rush feeding, because even if Rush feeds, it doesn't matter, because I don't think anybody in Golden Guardians team can facilitate.
I want to point out a bunch of
push a lead,
but
correctly.
I do think that Froggen, Hanser, and Deftly are all playing fine. I think that when Golden Guardians struggle, it comes off the back of both Contracts and Ole. I think that Contracts have been really bad on these like a lot of these aggressive junglers. I don't like him on them. He's been he's been pretty decent on Lee Sin for the most part, but I do think that when he's not on point, he's a really big, he's one of the biggest problems this team has. Ole's been terrible. I think that Ole's the single worst player in the league. And,
is he worse than EQ?
Yeah. With EQ, every once in a while, he's like, bam.
Every once in a while, bam.
Bam, I'm slightly below average.
And then Ole, every once in a while, is like, what?
Ole has had good games, actually. Let's be honest.
Ole's won championships. How many has EQ won?
I don't care about that.
I don't care about accolades.
Ole, if we're going to point out who's going to win out at Equifox, I think that jungle is going to be the big deciding factor on who's worse today. Because I think that Rush and Contracts are in contention for really...
the XT9 junglers, actually.
They're both really bad this year. Mid lane, Froggen's playing really well, pretty decently, and so is Phoenix. Top lane, I think that is going to pretty... I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it really goes in favor of Hanser anymore, even though... Because last time this specific matchup played out, he almost got solo killed. The bot lane is going to be really just too much in favor of Echo Fox, in my opinion, because I think that Definitely's pretty decent, but Ole's just too big of a non-factor for it to matter. So I think that Echo Fox wins this, but it's just because the weaknesses of Golden Guardians are just too big of weaknesses to really compete with this team at this point.
I think that this game won't be as terrible as the first time around, but I think it's going to be like Echo Fox can beat Golden Guardians not just by laning phase. Well, some of the lanes will win, but I think they've shown better plays around the map, warding, objectives, stuff like that. So
if you put Ole on a tank and it's not Ornn, you're fine. I think he's pretty average after that.
Everything else is like Golden Guardians. If they draft the way they played today, it's just gonna look worse. So I'm saying Echo Fox will win this one. Who are you saying?
I'm gonna say it's really hard for me to put up. I'm gonna say Echo Fox too.
Don't, because that means it's all on me.
What?
Say Golden Guardians. Do it. So they don't know.
Okay, so the second game of the day is gonna be OpTic versus Clutch Gaming.
The newest teams in the league. Just kidding. OpTic and Clutch are. They're bad, and they're 3-6. So if they get a win, one of them will be higher in the standings. So this does matter in terms of playoffs.
Okay, so
this win does matter a lot. Actually.
Who wins today gets put back into playoff position.
That's a big thing.
It is a big thing. They will be put into either 6th or 5th tomorrow, depending on who wins.
And that means still, if they can hold their positions, they would be higher. So looking out of the games we saw today, we saw two completely different styles. One was. They're just going to give Clutch's side, we'll just give them whatever they want so they don't lose on standard. And OpTic's like, well, we'll just play standard.
So I think that Clutch Gaming, again, they showed versatility today, but I think that it's really not going to happen a lot. I don't think that... I don't want to see Piglet on anything but ADCs too often. I think that just shows that you're capable of it. Just don't use it unless it's like a clutch pickup. So,
This is tough.
It's really not tough for me, honestly. I do think that OpTic Gaming is really kind of decisive, but the weaknesses inside of the laning phase are really just too exploitable.
It's like, who looked better in their win today or yesterday?
I would just say OpTic Gaming is really weak in the bot lane. I think that's going to be a big problem for them going forward.
I think their best performer is Big and Meteos, and
it's going to be
Big gets beaten by Vulcan.
It's Crown and Meteos, honestly.
Crown and Meteos.
I think Big is fine, but he's not great.
But he's not better than Vulcan, so...
He's not. I think that, again, if we're going to point out the strengths of this team, I really do think they're mitigated by this Clutch Gaming lineup. Crown is good, but, we saw the Demonte versus Crown matchup last time, and I think Demonte won it pretty handily. I think that...
In A mid's too good.
I guess, but... Dokla, I mean, even with how Hooney's playing, which I don't think he played bad at all yesterday or today, I don't think that Dokla can do anything because he's horrible. So I think that, like, Hooney's just going to win this, hopefully.
Watch, we're going to say clutch, and then OpTic is going to smash him.
You can say OpTic, honestly.
I don't want to. That's the thing. But so, I think today was a bounce-back game for clutch.
Yeah, Arrow and Big, I think, are one of the worst laners in terms of just the league in the bot lane. I think they're...
I don't even think Arrow looks like he wants to play in the game anymore.
He doesn't. So I think that Clutch Gaming wins this pretty easily. I think that, like, when Pigley gets a lead, I really do think that Clutch Gaming has a really big chance of winning. And DeMonte's really good, so he's either going to go even or lead regardless. Here's what I'll do
to save my prediction. I'm going to say OpTic, just in case if they do lose, I'll have said I'm right.
I don't care.
So I'm going to say OpTic. He's going to say Clutch.
Okay, so yeah, I would
I'm
say
gonna
Clutch.
Lose bad, but I'm going to say OpTic. You only live once. You gotta have some fun, guys. You know, yesterday I was talking to a older lady and stuff. All right, so this time, last time around, I got this one wrong and I shouldn't have. But Cloud9 versus CLG. So looking how the teams have passed, CLG and Team Liquid are the only teams to hand Cloud9 losses so far. And looking how both teams have progressed since week 2, is it possible that Clutch can give Cloud9 their third loss at this point?
Clutch isn't playing them, so I don't
think
so. CLG, honestly, I think they have a cool style. It's fun. Kiteback is it's a unique style.
Kiteback tanky top laners.
Yeah, but the thing about it is when you have, in my opinion, what is Cloud9's one of the strongest laners in the league in the top lane, I don't think it's going to be really impactful at this point because I think Licorice is just going to win this top lane pretty hard.
Licorice beat him last time. Wasn't Licorice's fault they lost to the CLG?
Yeah, so I think that he's going to win this pretty handily, which is going to make the top lane a little bit less tanky.
In this game, Power Removal is pretty even. Jungle, Wiggly, and Sinskarin.
I think they're both pretty terrible. So
yeah, dang, you're just throwing right on the bus. I think Cloud9 have shown too many strengths more recently, and like I said, I'm gonna keep my tradition of picking them every single game. So yeah, see now they're gonna win.
Did you really pick them every game? So
I told you first part of the year I was gonna do it, except against TL maybe, but and then I still didn't do it. I win.
So I think that the biggest strength in what I would say is the bot lane for the biggest difference is going to be the bot lane in my opinion because I do think that I really don't think that this bot lane is going to compete with the level of that Stixie's been putting out recently.
Yeah, even when CLG got their win sticks, they didn't overperform.
Yeah, Stixie's been pretty bad this year. I mean, this beginning of the split, I think that Biofrost has been pretty terrible too for the most part.
A bot lane that should be a strong point for them is just not.
And then Darshan's going to lose this top lane because I don't think he's anywhere capable in stopping what Licorice is able to put out.
So I think this time around, I think they can do it.
I think they smashed this game at this point. Now that the reason that Clutch Gaming worked is because they see. Well, I actually just made fun of you that specific thing, didn't I?
That's the reason why I do the editing on the videos and he doesn't.
We don't edit our videos.
I try. I'm gonna put an intro in one day.
I will delete it.
He's so mean. Okay, I'll put an outro in the video.
An outro is an end screen maybe, but
yeah, I was actually working on that too.
Yeah, so Clutch Gaming again. I think that their biggest strength is probably going to be in their mid lane, and I don't think it's kind of mitigated against what's it called, Cloud9, who has Niski in the mid lane. So I don't think it's going to go in their favor. I think that with the level these two are playing in the bot lane, I don't think they're going to go anywhere near Cloud9. And Cloud9 is just smarter. Smarter team, better coaching staff. They always win the drafting phase for the most part.
They've drastically improved since CLG beat them last time, and then CLG kind of it's not that CLG played. I think they personally just got lucky.
They didn't get lucky. Again, the reason the CLG won is because they defined their style at that exact moment that they played Cloud9.
Were just kind of not defined at that moment.
They were defined, but they just weren't ready for Clutch. I mean, counter logic because
they're countering logic.
Yeah, the counter logic just barely. No one had got to see their play style, and then once they figured it out, their first game was against Cloud9, and I really think that was kind of it threw them off. So I think
this time around, I think Cloud9 can win.
Cloud9 is going to win this pretty hard. I don't think Counter Logic Gaming. I made fun of you, and now I just can't stop saying it.
He can't. They won't.
I think the CLG is probably going to lose this pretty hard.
They're not going to counter any logic when you're losing.
Okay, so
Cloud9. Fiddle my sticks.
And he says Cloud9 too. So the next game after that is going to be
This is the match of the day. FlyQuest versus TSM. Both of them want to retain that third spot. Because if one of them wins, they will clinch third.
No one clinches third. It's barely halfway through the season.
They're tied with third. They're tied at third if they win. So this is the match of the day. FlyQuest is coming off a loss. TSM's coming off a win. Who won the last time around? Didn't FlyQuest win the last time around? Yeah, they won last time around. Yeah, they did. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because that was one of their losses. FlyQuest won the last time around. So
you're scrolling way too fast to even be able to read. He's like scrolling a million miles per hour trying to read.
1 million or 2 million miles an hour.
I hate you so much.
They won the last time around. Yeah, FlyQuest won the last time around. But as we've said before, when teams first play against each other, when the league first starts, a lot of them win based off like synergy, just learning the patch. Now that they've improved since then, who are you going to say that's going to win this time?
I think that TSM is on a 3-game win streak right now, correct?
FlyQuest is on a 3-game losing streak.
Well,
TL, Cloud9, and they lost to 100 Thieves, I think. No, they beat 100 Thieves. Who did they beat?
FlyQuest
lost to
100 Thieves.
Yeah.
No, they beat 100 Thieves. They're on a 2-game losing streak.
They've lost.
Wait, are they even on a 2-game losing streak? No, they've won the last 2 games before this one. You're insane.
I am crazy.
You're insane. They've lost 1 game in a row.
So TSM's on a winning streak. FlyQuest is beginning a losing streak. Okay,
I'm gonna be honest.
Who's improved more since then?
I think that again, TSM has got wins against what I would say are pretty competent teams. Team Liquid.
They're the only team to beat Team Liquid.
Yeah. They played pretty well against Op. Like again, I think that with the way that Zvan and Smoothie have been playing recently, I really do think they're a very strong team. I think they're in contention. They're in 3rd place in my opinion, and they could put up a fight against Cloud9, which I say almost no one else can. So I think that
this time around,
again, I do like the strength in FlyQuest. I think that Pobelter's playing better than Bjergsen, which is kind of weird for me.
Man, who'd have thought you'd be saying that?
Santorin is playing better than Acadian. I do think that's the case, but I don't think it's...
Now, what if FlyQuest go and purchase Grig?
But the problem is, Broken Blade is too strong for Viper. I think Viper is one of their biggest strengths, and he's just going to get destroyed. And the bot lane is going to get just absolutely destroyed, too, because Wild Turtle and JJ are terrible in laners and terrible in general. Like, I think they are just not going to compete with this bot lane.
Now, what if FlyQuest pick Yasuo again and have him run it down against Bjergsen?
I'd like that, honestly.
Now, what if they switch Wild Turtle and have Wild Turtle face Bjergsen?
That would be fun.
And what if Bjergsen loses, and then Bjergsen, he texts Wild Turtle's like, hey, you want to go out later on tonight? Bjergsen takes
okay, shut up. Writing fanfics in the middle of this is weird. So I
think like TSM's strongest points are just too much for FlyQuest.
Again, yeah, the side lanes in the TSM are just too in favor of them. I think that again they have a strength in mid lane, they have a strength in jungle, but it's just not enough. Bjergsen is very capable against Pobelter, and Santorin, though I do think he's pretty substantially better than Acadian, is gonna be going into a situation where he has to gank what I would say are consistent losing lanes like everywhere. So all around, I think that FlyQuest has the ability to win this out of Santorin ganking like key interval lanes to kind of put them ahead, but it's just not enough. I think that TSM has really defined their style recently. Like this aggressive early TSM is what I think they should have been for a long time. So like all around, I think with the improvement of Smoothie in the past few games, I do think that TSM takes this one.
Ooh. I got a message from an Asian dating website. No.
You're an idiot, man. Come on.
I got a special offer. Just can talk to the girls for a whole hour for free. No?
Why do you just message cam girls constantly, man?
They weren't cam girls. What are you talking about? All right, so this is going to be another first place team versus a 8th place team because Team Liquid...
didn't even pick a team yet.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Free SM is going to win and Trash Quest is going to lose. But watch me say that, and FlyQuest beat them. Watch FlyQuest beat them.
Who cares? Then we got it wrong.
No! Yeah! Okay, TSM, I think, will handily win this match.
I don't know about handily, but I will say they will.
They're going to play some crisp, clean, quality league.
Okay, so Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves is going to be the last game of the day.
This is the game where you go, hey, honey, you want to go out to dinner and watch a movie? And she's like, yeah, okay, let's go. Come back, and then TL wins.
100 Thieves randomly had a strong 3 games in a row, and then they lost again. I think that 100 Thieves...
games were terrible when they won them. Their wins do not reflect how good they really are. They're actually second worst team in the league. Only way they're actually staying this content is someday. they did not have him, they would be last place. Or Bang, maybe.
Bang and what I'd
Bang
say is
Sunday.
Onda's average. I mean, he's been playing pretty well recently. So I think that, again, like, the consistent, if I could see Aframu and, who need
1 hour free trial.
Aframu, if he's on a tank, I'm tired of him being on an engager. He's been terrible.
That's, you got to think, in terms of playmaking, none of them do it, so he's got to do it.
He needs to not do it.
If he sits there and plays passive and they lose that way, then
they scaling wise, if they scale into the late game, I think they're fine.
But who are they going to pick so good where they don't get drastically blasted?
I would like to see him on Braum. I think he played really well against CLG with that. So I think that 100 Thieves loses this. I'm really just saying, I'm just going to point out the strengths of 100 Thieves because Team Liquid is just really too strong right now. 100 Thieves is just not just average. I'm below average right now. So 100 Thieves, I mean, Someday is a really good laner. I think he would definitely decimate this lane. I think that Impact's been playing really well, but Someday has picked it back up recently, and he's been one of the better players in the league. I mean, on this team now. Onda's really picked it up like recently. He's been more proactive. He's been a very like integral part in their early game success recently, but they're not going to have that against Team Liquid. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Team Liquid's the best early game team in the league. In the bot lane, Aframu and Bang are really weak laners. I mean, they were losing against Arrow and Big today in the laning phase for quite a bit in what I would say is a winning lane in the laning phase. And Aframu and, I mean, Doublelift and Cordeja are the best laners in terms of just early game laning. They are the best laners. Cordeja is the best player in the league, too. 100 Thieves lacks decisive shot calling and aggressive, and engaging.
They lack. Let's see. If I just ran down really quick, like Welto today and Yasuo, I would say Huhi is just not what people expected coming in. Been a massive disappointment compared to that standard.
Mm-hmm.
Someday is just not the best right now. Onda is either facilitating or he's facilitating the loss. Get it? You see what I did there? Bam. And you get Bang, who I'm not gonna say people overhyped, but they did. It's like he just isn't what people expected. And I mean, people did overhype him coming in. Because you have to factor in, he's playing not only with someone new, you also have to factor in that he can play at that standard again. In a new team, in a brand new environment, you just can't go on and be like, okay, it's going to work because he's the best player and that's how it's going to work. That's not how general things work. Just because they're better doesn't automatically mean that this year they're going to do better, just by default.
Well, I mean, again, we can't put into random variables we couldn't take into consideration. If we put in the fact how well he played last year, we have to put it into this fact.
That would still be at least like top 3 material.
He would be in the top 2 or maybe the best ADC if he played as good as he did last split.
That's the thing. He can't play that way with someone like Afmer, who was supposed to be power ranked by what? A lot of people to be like what? Second best support in the league.
You put him at the best.
See, that's the thing. If the most integral part of the team in their shot calling part is not even playing well, and he's not even playing at his spring MVP level anymore, he's just, I don't really know. But I do know that Team Liquid can't lose to them because they're just so far ahead at this point. It doesn't matter. They could go in and lose the early game. It doesn't even matter. They're not going to punish you. They're not going to do anything to you. Realistically, if they could go in, pick a bunch of scaling laners, and just lose the early game and out shot call them moving forward, because that's how bad 100 Thieves is right now.
So all around, I think the 100 Thieves can't win this. Like, it just... Like, I mean, if it happens, this has just been a big turnaround for this team because a lot of the weaknesses on this team have really are just too much for what I would say is Bang and Someday to be able to carry. Like, I do think Onda's picked it up. He's still not strong. I think that Aframu and Huhi have been 2 of the worst at their respective roles this season. So, if you want to see this team pick it up, I would have to say we need to see some sort of actual decisive shot calling because Aframu's trying to make these plays that are just not able to follow up, and he's getting caught out a lot, and he's just playing horrible. So I think they need to pick up an academy, some mid laner at this point, and I'd like to see Aframu kind of take the back seat for a little bit and see where the team goes from there. So I'm gonna say Team Liquid wins this.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna say 100 Thieves win. Just kidding.
So
TL wins.
That's pretty much it.
Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy.
Stop doing that at the end of the video. That's lame.
If you enjoyed the